Okay, so this rig is, I'd say, pretty much 99% complete. So the last things we want to do is check that things work with animation. So here I've set a few keyframes in FK, and then we key the switch and then key a few in IK, so see that it's working between the two. Because sometimes when you set up the IK FK, it might work well, you know, just moving these things about, but as you start to add keyframes, in the past I've had things where when it switches it doesn't follow the IK handle, or the IK handle's, you know, been flipped and moved up here. So it works when you're moving it manually in the viewport, but when you start setting keys on things it goes a bit screwy. And it seems to be working fine. And in the past you can see in here in the IK, in the attribute header, there's an IK FK control that you can switch on, which usually solves a lot of issues between the IK FK blend. So if you're ever having any issues with the IK FK blend, just check in the attribute editor that you have IK and FK control switched on. So I'll do that on both sides. And we can see it's working anyway, so not having too many problems. A few other things we want to do is I'm just going to extra to hide, and I'm just going to show the extra to hide and show deformers. And we just want to make sure we've got everything consistent. So earlier on I set up the IKFK switch on these arms. By doing that you could see I parented the pole vector constraint, which was this curve over here. Now we can't see it because we're in FK mode because we set it up to hide it, but I can see that earlier on we put this cluster to constrain this display curve between the two. So as I rotate this I can see, yep, that's working. I've got it constrained so it follows the forearm FK. But excuse me, if we just check on the other side we can see it's not been constrained. So to make sure we've got everything the same, I'm just going to switch to IK. I'm going to see what we did here. So holding the control curve, pressing F and expanding, I can see I've got this rotate offset group. So this offset group here, and we snapped it to the pivot of that control, and it is parent constraint. So over here we need to do the same. So I'm going to hide the mesh. I'm going to show joints. So joints are shown, so I need to display the group. So what I'm actually going to do here is switch to, and if you've got a case like this where you can't see the control to snap it to, so actually I'm going to hide the joint. So you could snap it to the joint here because we remember the pivot was the same as the joint. But just for instance, if the pivot wasn't the same, I want to snap this to a control that I can't see. What we just want to do is go to FK, and with the control selected I'll display the local rotate axes and make sure we've got show handles on. But we can see if I go back to IK to show the pole vector, oops, the wrong side, it's going to hide the local rotated axes as well. So all I'm going to do here is just go to create locator, make sure I can see the locator, and quickly just snap it up there. And we can see actually we've got the distance dimension tool there already, so we'll just use that as well. So we'll go to the FK, select this pole vector, hit Ctrl G, press insert, snap it to the locator, insert again to come out of. And I'm just going to copy the name from the left hand side, paste it to the right, make sure we actually rename it to the right. And switch back to FK, select the control, select the group that we made, constraint, and we did parent, but make sure maintain offset is on. So we had that unchecked earlier on, so always check your settings, and we'll hit apply and close. And now we can see as we rotate this, we're getting the desired result, that pole vector's following along. Okay, so an extra thing we can do. So again, we just keep going through, keep trying to improve this rig. So I'm going to look at here, and we add these ribbon spines. So as I move this up, we can see it's bending up here. And you might think, oh, this cluster's not following along, but we've got to remember what these were used for. And these were used for the pole vector of the arm. So it might be quite deceiving if we actually take this cluster and snap it to one of the ribbon spines and parent constrain it to that, because that's actually not where the IK bend is. So we just want to remind the animator that it is down here. It's actually not up here. So that's a case where it might look like it's, you know, disconnected from the rig, but we don't want to deceive the animator that it's not actually. So again, I'll just show the joints, actually show this. So we can see the actual bend is here. So by snapping this cluster up to the ribbon, we would be deceiving the animator by telling the bend's up here. So they would be thinking that it's actually bending upwards. So that's the case where we don't want to move that. So I'll just hide the joints again. And we'll just start hiding everything we don't need to see, because we've pretty much done with this rig. I'm going to go back to the model, bring back those eye groups. So we hid them earlier on, so I'm just going to re-show them. Make sure they're following with the rig. So we can actually test this in texture mode. We can see those eyes are following about, and this is where we can really start to play with the character. See, let's hide the IKs as well. So this is the beauty of having them in the character node. We can just hide and show bulk sections of the rig. Okay, so we can see that's rotating around the eyes there, so this is going to give us some really sort of good character to this. Okay, cool, so we've got the rig done. I'm going to hide the local rotative axis of that. I can get rid of this temp group, so I'm just going to save this. And because we've been saving incrementally, like here you can see this is a 59 save. This group is going to be in several previous saves. So if I do need to access it, I can just access an older save file. So we're done with these curves that were used to create the fingers and the spines. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. And we still have a copy of the model in here. So I'm actually going to call this blend shape. So this is a B-shaped copy. I'm going to put that in capitals just to remind myself it's important not to do anything with it. Main body mesh. And because it's a blend shape, I'm going to middle mouse click and move it to the blend shapes. So that's just in there as a copy. So we use that for facial animation later on. And we'll just clean this up. So okay, it's looking good. So then next tutorial we're just going to go over a few last things, making sure this character's set, and I'm going to go into referencing, so how we can use this rig to its full advantage.